Hello and welcome to Live at Phuket Pals. Today we will have a look at another set of life science questions for the GED science test. As in our last video we did 12 questions, today we will go over 10 to 12 questions as well. Let's have a look at the first few questions here. Question 14 and 15 are based upon the following information. Populations of white moths and black moths live in a forest that is located near a factory. The factory is powered by the burning of fossil fuel, which releases airborne black soot that eventually covers the trees in the area. As a result, the trees become dark in color. This set of events could result in what? A decrease in the white moth population, a decrease in the black moth population, a decrease in the respiratory problems among people living nearby, an increase in the number of trees growing in the area. So, since this question is about pollution from burning fossil fuels, black soot being released and covering trees in the area, as a result, trees become darker in color. This relates directly to an example of microevolution, where scientists in the past directly observed the change of a population in the black-peppered moths. So, if you don't know this, we could eventually anyway get to the right answer here. If we have a look at this, let's have a look at the last two possible answers, C and D, a decrease in respiratory problems among people living nearby. Black soot in the air from burning fossil fuels probably leads to an increase, not a decrease. An increase in the number of trees growing in the area. Again, we have population which affects trees, covers trees in the area. That would probably reduce photosynthesis as well. So will probably lead to a decrease in the number of trees growing in the area. So we can exclude C and D. So the question that we should ask ourselves is, what effect does this pollution have on the population of white moths compared to black moths? Now the peppered moth, which this is an example of here, is usually white with some black speckles, so it looks peppered, and they are usually very well camouflaged on the bark of trees, which is usually fairly light due to lichen growing on them. A lot of birch trees in the area where this happened. So the white moth population now living on darker trees will start to struggle and would decrease, whereas the black moth population, of which there is a variety as well, would probably increase. So the answer that we should go for here is probably answer A, a decrease in the white moth population, because the trees become darker in color and their camouflage is not working as well anymore as it was before. Question 15. Which of the following would not help prevent pollution from the factory from entering the air? Using solar energy to power the factory, using wind turbines to power the factory, driving hybrid vehicles, using steam to power the factory. Probably C here. Driving hybrid vehicles has nothing to do with the factory itself. All the others directly relate to the type of energy that the factory uses. So the correct answer here is probably C. Refer to the following information to answer question 16 and 17. Arteries are blood vessels that carry blood away from the heart. Veins are blood vessels that carry blood towards the heart. In contrast to arteries, veins are less muscular and are often close to the skin. Most veins, with exception to the pulmonary vein, are umbilical veins. They carry deoxygenated blood from the tissues back to the heart. Most veins contain valves, which are bicuspid in structure, that look like two flaps made of elastic tissue. When the surrounding muscle contracts, blood inside the veins is squeezed up the vein and the valves open. When the muscles relax, the valves close under the weight of the blood to prevent backflow. What is the purpose of valves in veins? Their job is to increase the speed of blood flow, to restrict the flow of blood to a single direction, to enable blood to flow back and forth, to transfer blood from arteries to veins. So what part of the text is important here? Let's have a look. Here. So here it starts. Most veins have valves which are bicuspid in structure and look like two flaps made of elastic tissue. When the surrounding muscle contracts, blood inside the veins is squeezed. When the muscle contracts, blood inside the veins is squeezed up the vein and the valves open. When the muscles relax, the valves close under the weight of the blood to prevent backflow. So if we summarize this up, what the question is about, what the information that we need here is when the muscles contract, the blood is squeezed up the veins and the valves open. When the muscles relax, the blood wants to flow back, but due to the weight of the blood, the valves close and that prevents backflow. So the purpose of valves is to restrict the flow of blood to a single direction. There's nothing mentioned about the speed of blood flow. This is definitely wrong. The valves do not enable the blood to flow back and forth. They do the opposite. They only allow blood to flow in one direction, so we can exclude that too. D, to transfer blood from arteries to veins. There's something mentioned here that arteries and veins are connected in some way, but the valves are not involved in this in any kind. So the correct answer here is definitely B, to restrict the flow of blood into a single direction. Which of these, number 17, which of these has an action similar to that of the valves and veins? A bicycle tire, the filament of a light bulb, a garden hose, the motor of a fan. I would probably go for, so this doesn't really make sense. Filament of a light bulb has a high resistance. It allows electricity to flow through it, but it would allow electricity to flow in both directions, so nothing to do with a valve. A garden hose, yeah, maybe to some extent, but let's see if we'll find something better. The motor of a fan, motor, I don't think this has to do anything with a valve either. It's either bicycle tire or garden hose. I think bicycle tire is the better option here. If we think about filling a bicycle tire up with air, there is an actual valve, and this valve allows air to pass into the tire but not out of the tire. So the bicycle tire does actually have a valve, so it's probably not the garden hose. And yeah, especially a garden hose probably has a valve as well, and at the end we can control how much water comes out. But in a bicycle tire, it's really about letting air in but not out of the tire. Okay, another question related to evolution, as it looked like. We have some kind of cladogram here. An evolutionary tree is one way of showing evolution from a common ancestor to what we have here and here. A sample evolutionary tree is shown. We have 3 species, A, B, and C, that are in some kind of way related to each other. The points along the diagonal line where the links between species intersect indicate a common ancestor. That's what I just marked here. So where the lines intersect, here we have a common ancestor, and here we have a common ancestor as well. The nearer the point of intersection, the more closely related are two species. Based on the diagram, species A, B are more closely related than species A and C, or more distantly related. So A and B, here and here, they share a common ancestor where they meet, whereas A and C share a common ancestor where they meet, and this is down here. So we can see that A and B have a more recent common ancestor in time, and therefore species A and B are more closely related to each other than A and C. In general, if we have a cladogram like this, the further we go down, the further we go back in time. So this is the past, and on top where we have all the species listed, this is basically the present. Refer to the following information to answer question 19 to 22. According to the graph, about how much oxygen is consumed per minute by a person at rest. So let's have a look at the graph first, actually. We have oxygen consumption rate that is measured while jogging, and it is measured at a slow jog pace of 12 minutes per mile. So the person that is jogging takes 12 minutes to run 1 mile. And here we have the total time that the person was jogging, and on the y-axis we have the oxygen consumption in liters per minute. So the first, at the beginning, the person is still at rest, didn't start running yet, and then probably from time 0, the person will start running. And we can see here that at rest, before the person is running, the person has already an oxygen consumption, which makes sense because we are breathing all the time, whether we run or not. Our body needs oxygen. Obviously, because when we run, our body is moving, muscles are more active, and the body needs more oxygen. And we can see that when the person starts jogging at a constant pace of 12 minutes per mile, the oxygen consumption goes up. So according to the graph, about how much oxygen is consumed per minute by a person at rest. So you can see that this consumption is here. It's somewhere between 0.2 and 0.4 liters per minute, and it's closer to 0.2, I guess. So if we let's actually delete this, now we can see it's more or less in the middle. So the only thing that makes sense is B, 0.3 being between 0.2 and 0.4. Yeah, all the others don't really make sense. So this is at rest. Which statement best summarizes the graph? So graph summary, we can see that it rises and then stays stable. So we're looking for something like this in our description. The steady state rate of oxygen consumption depends on a jogging speed. So this only talks about this part up here and does not mention at all this part, so it's probably not A. Again, we are looking for a statement that summarizes the graph, so we want something that has everything in it. Oxygen consumption increases most rapidly during the first 6 minutes of jogging. That is true as well, more or less, but again, it doesn't include the second part of the graph. Oxygen consumption is lower while at rest than during jogging. That's true too, but it just doesn't really describe the graph very well. It just says at rest it's low, when jogging it's higher than that, but it's not mentioning anything about the shape of the graph. So let's see if we can find something better with D. Oxygen consumption rises during the first 6 minutes of jogging, so it goes up during the first 6 minutes. That's very good so far, and remains at a steady state while jogging continues, and we include the second part of the graph too. So answer D is definitely the best option here. Suppose that after 10 minutes of slow jogging at a rate of 12 minutes per mile, a person suddenly speeds up to a rate of 10 minutes per mile. So this jogging speed goes up from 12 minutes per mile to 10 minutes per mile. What will be the most likely effect on the oxygen consumption? So, person speeds up, runs faster. We can already see the difference from rest and running. That when we start running from rest, our oxygen consumption goes up. So if the person runs faster, we can probably assume that the oxygen consumption will rise after that. An increase to a higher steady state level, a steadily falling rate, to a new state level, something like this, a continuation of the same state level, a decrease to a lower steady state level. Oh, no new state level, that's what they said first in B. So that's what B says, steadily falling, no new state, and then D says decreasing but finding a new state. So since we are running faster, again, the oxygen consumption would go up. The only option that gives us an increase is A, to a higher steady state, which makes sense because the person would continue running at this pace. So that makes most sense. So the best answer here is A. Which of the following might be the jogger's rate of oxygen consumption? She continues to run at 10 miles per hour for another 5 minutes. 12 minutes per mile. Yeah, so 12, that's a bit tricky, hard to understand maybe in the first instance. 12 minutes per mile means 12 minutes times 5 are equal to 60 minutes, which means this weird unit of speed, 12 minutes per mile, is equal to a speed of 5 miles per hour. That makes more sense. So which of the following might be the jogger's rate of oxygen consumption if she continues to run at 10 miles per hour for another 5 minutes? So we can see that running at 12 minutes per mile she runs 5 miles per hour. So she speeds up to 10 miles per hour. What happens to the oxygen consumption? So the only option that is higher is 2 liters per minute. So that's probably it, because 10 miles per hour is faster than she was running before. The only option that makes sense is that the oxygen consumption goes up to 2 liters per minute. Okay, let's have a look at 2 more questions. Refer to the following diagram. So we see human jaw and the jaw of a baboon with its teeth. What feature of a human jaw is similar to that of a baboon? The length of the jaw? Definitely not. The baboon jaw is much longer than the human jaw. The width of the jaw, I think the human jaw, as it looks like, is going to be wider than the baboon jaw. Yes, definitely wider. If we compare this. Shape of the teeth in the jaw, definitely not. The baboons have much more established canines here. Molars look and premolars look a bit different too. Number of teeth in the jaw, it's going to be probably that, You can count it. Fast way of doing that is because our jaws have a line of symmetry, same number of teeth on the left and right side. We just need to count half the teeth. So we can start here in the middle. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So in total 16 for humans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times 2. In total of 16 for baboons. So correct answer is D. The differences between the jaw of a human being and the jaw of a baboon most likely are related to differences in what activity. Our teeth are part of our digestive system. They are responsible for a big chunk of the mechanical digestion, of breaking down food into smaller pieces. So the teeth and their shape are usually directly related to the diet of the organism. And that is actually a possible answer here. So breathing, teeth have nothing to do with breathing, teeth have nothing to do with intelligence, and not so much with the lifespan. So definitely the diet here. All right, that was our set of questions for today, I think. Yes. So yeah, thank you for joining, and I hope I could help you. And I wish you all the best for your GED science test. I see you in the next screencast. Until then, have a good time.